Before I get sued, can I transfer all my assets to a trust? So here's the setup. Imagine you realize there's a good chance you're going to get sued. Let's assume it's for a specific situation. Do you have the right to transfer all of your assets into a trust at that time? And if you do, will that protect you? And in particular, will it protect the assets that you've transferred into the trust? So let's say, for example, you have a cabin, a home, shares in a business that you own and operate, and some expensive vehicles. Can you transfer all of those into a trust so that if you get sued and lose in court, you don't have any money? Everything's in the trust. And so you might even be able to file for bankruptcy and everything is protected in the trust. Will that work? No, it won't. It won't work for a variety of reasons, and I'll explain what those reasons are. So first off, the most common type of trust used for estate planning is a revocable trust. That's a trust that you can revoke or change. You can put stuff in and pull it out, etc. That's not going to work because whatever you have a right to in a lawsuit, your creditor would have a right to. So if you have a right to pull stuff out of a trust, the creditor has a right to that. So that's not going to work. But what about an irrevocable trust? An irrevocable trust can protect your assets from creditors in certain circumstances, but it's not going to work here. First, what is an irrevocable trust? An irrevocable trust is a trust that you set up and you cannot change it. You cannot revoke it, you cannot modify it after you've set it up. So sometimes, though, people will name themselves as a trustee, so they get to manage that trust. Or they'll name themselves as a beneficiary, which means they can benefit from the assets of the trust. So why doesn't this work? Well, first, if you want to continue to use your business and your home and your vehicles, you're going to need to be a beneficiary, because a beneficiary is the person who benefits from those assets if you put into an irrevocable trust. And if you wanted to make decisions about all this stuff, you're probably going to want to be a trustee. If you're a trustee or a beneficiary, the creditor, if the court grants it, has rights to everything you have. So just like a creditor, or you could benefit from driving the vehicle or selling the vehicle, the creditor would have those rights. There is an exception to this, and that's if you use a trust that is in another country that does not honor the orders by United States courts, and you appoint somebody else as the trustee of that trust. But keep in mind, if you are here in the United States, and in that case, the court has jurisdiction over you. So the court can tell you what to do, including holding you in contempt of court if a court believes that you have the ability to make payments to a creditor, but you're not doing it. So it's quite difficult to set up an irrevocable trust that allows you to benefit from some of the assets unless you get sued, in which case some other appointee or trustee appointed by you is handling that and cutting you essentially off from that. You can do it, but there's significant expense. You have to find essentially a law firm in another country who will serve as your trustee. But there are a couple other problems with this. If you set this up at the time that you are aware of a threat and a lawsuit, the court can undo that transaction, essentially disgorge the trust of these assets. If these assets are located in the United States, a court can order the county recorder's office to change title of real estate. The court can order the Department of Motor Vehicles to change title of vehicles. The court can order a bank to transfer money to your creditor. So even though a trust may be outside the jurisdiction of the United States courts, if the assets or the property or you are within the United States, you are susceptible to the jurisdiction and authority of the courts here in the United States. Sure, a trust might make it a little more difficult, but ultimately a court can grant access to a creditor or ownership to a creditor for your stuff that's within the United States jurisdiction. Another problem with transferring assets into a trust at the time you know of a threat is what's called fraudulent transfer laws. If you transfer anything with the intent of preventing a creditor from getting access to it, so you have a known creditor, a known threat, and you transfer it away, under fraudulent transfer statutes, that transaction can be undone by a court. Very similarly, the bankruptcy laws, United States Bankruptcy Code, allow a trustee to undo transactions for the benefit of creditors. So a trustee can retroactively do this. There are a number of online services that sell these international trusts to protect your assets. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of fear-mongering that goes along with that. If you are considering doing something like that, I would recommend you work with an attorney licensed in your state who's representing you, not one of these services, to take a look at the circumstances and determine, does it really protect you in the way that you hope? I'm a bit cynical because I see the hype and the fear-mongering from some of these services. And my clients have come to me and said, will this protect us? We need to do this right away. In fact, I've had clients who've already spent the money. And I look at the situation and I go, it's not going to protect you. We have fraudulent transfer laws. We have bankruptcy code. The court already has jurisdiction over you and all the assets that you have. These assets are in the United States. For many, many reasons, you usually cannot transfer assets into a trust and thereby protect them from your creditors. Now, if you do it way in advance, sometimes it can work. It all depends on the circumstances. If you'd like to be notified of the next YouTube live that we have, or the next live Q&A, you can go visit aaronhall.com/free, enter your email address, and you'll get access to exclusive educational videos, and you also will get a notice next time we go live. You can also subscribe on YouTube, and if you follow us on other social media platforms, you'll see some of the videos that we put out on those as well. It was great having some time with you today. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to add them into the comments section below or send them by email. We'll do our best to answer those in the next live Q&A. Thanks for joining me today.